Welcome everyone to our first webinar of our end of year Indie Artist Blueprint webinar series. This is the Artist Path to Success, Tips and Tricks. I'm super excited about this one. My name is Jordyn Tareaz. I'm the Community and Social Media Manager here at IndieFlow. In this webinar series, we're gonna gear you with all the tools as an artist so you can hit the ground running next year. So from now until December, we have about 6 webinars lined up, ranging from all different topics. Super exciting. We have 2 amazing guests. I'll let them introduce themselves. Eric, do you want to go first?
Sure, thanks, Jordyn. Hey everyone, I'm Eric McLellan, longtime A&R. I've worked at Warner Music Group. I've worked in music distribution. I've managed artists, currently working at Nine Tone, which is a Swedish record label, and run my own sort of artist services, A&R marketing agency called Yo Peep This. So I'm excited to dive in today.
Dope. Jay?
I am Jai Yoko. I'm the CEO of my own company, Jai Yoko Entertainment. I work with plenty of artists from recording out of their closet to we signed a major deal. So my job is to pretty much teach and develop artists to be successful and lucrative money-making artists. I manage different artists right now, develop different people just on different levels of figuring out how to make money on the paperwork, how to build fan bases, just that well-rounded help that artists need.
Awesome. So we're gonna have a great conversation. Before we really dive in, just want to tell everyone on here about a little bit more about IndieFlow for some new IndieFlow fan members and the old IndieFlow fan members. IndieFlow is the #1 platform for artist entrepreneurs. We're an all-in-one music management platform, so you can plan your releases, distribute your releases, and promote your releases all in one place. And we're really here to give you the tools so you can be the CEO of your career. Our 3 main values are the music business mindset, simplicity and education, and creating community. So we're really just here to help you, guide you along your music journey, and of course, support you along your music journey. All right, so let's just dive right in. You guys both have a lot of experience working hands-on closely with the artists. And that's something as mentors that you guys are going to be doing with the IndieFlow fam. And for everyone to stick around at the end, because we have a little treat for all of you guys who stay till the end. But yeah, as mentors, you guys work hands-on with artists. So can you kind of explain a little bit more like what you guys do in like artist strategy and like what kind of things that you do specifically to work and help artists and empower them?
Jay, you want to go first?
Oh, anyone jump in.
All right, I'll go first. So I think the main thing with the important thing with empowering an artist is literally just making them believe more in themselves, like that they can make it, right? So it's millions of artists that are out there, and sometimes it's hard for artists to realize, like, oh, how should I make it, or how are people going to see me, right? So it's a lot of affirming and kind of empowering, like that. Yes, you can do this type thing, right? Like you can make a living off your music. You don't have to be the most known person in the world. Like you can still do this. It is possible regardless of what everybody out here might be telling you, right? And from then, once we have the mindset of like, okay, yes, I can do it, it's starting to figure out like what exactly do you want to do? So I think goal planning is extremely important because everybody's level of success is not linear, right? So one person might say, I want to be a millionaire. And one person might say, like, I just want to see my music on iTunes, right? So it's having to figure out what is it that you actually want to do, right? What is it that you want to accomplish? It can't just be like, I want to make money. And it's like, well, if that's the case, you can work at Burger King type thing, right? So it's having to zone in and make them really figure out and pull it from outside of themselves. Like, what do I want to do? And then from there, it's reverse engineering, right? Okay, cool. We want to get 10,000 streams within the first 45 days. Well, what steps do we have to take to be able to accomplish that specific goal? So it's just a lot of thinking in the future is what the biggest thing that I can say, right? Planning for where you're not now, but where you want to be, so you can make those steps and make those different things happen. So it's a lot of hands-on just planning, figuring out who do you want to resonate with this? What is your brand going to be? What's the message behind the music? It's so much deeper than just, I got out the studio, I like the song, we're going to throw it up and we're going to throw it out there, right? So I think the biggest thing is teaching artists how to be intentional behind what they're putting out and figuring out, what makes them happy and finding that success level instead of trying to compare themselves to everybody else.
Mm,
Yeah, I agree. I think that's key. Like, there's so many levels to the process and just like releasing music, becoming an artist in general. And I think our roles a lot of times are sort of like that coach, that mentor, that psychologist. Sometimes even, you know, when I was at Warner, I would even talk like I was very fortunate. I worked with Seymour Stein, who is like a industry luminary, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was such a historian of music. And I think that's key because you really have to know the past so you can get to where you want to go.
mm,
So that's a big, key takeaway that I've always seen. But it really is like that planning, that strategizing. 100,000 tracks come out a day, right? So we're kind of inundated with music, and we have to figure out a way to cut through. And like Jai said, it starts with the music really first and foremost. And once you've got that, then you start planning, reverse engineering, and really like 30 days, 60-day, 90-day build towards goals, and try to hit your targets and benchmarks. And you're not always going to, but really at the end of the day, I've always found that it's really a pitch to get to like the next person, right? It's
mm,
like, you know, there's people at all different levels, whether you're just starting out. Maybe you're in the beginning making music in your bedroom and it's not that great, but maybe you've put out a couple of demos and then a local engineer maybe takes notice, and maybe they're a much better recording engineer than you are. So it kind of starts there and builds there. Then you get this engineer, you're sort of defining your sound. Then maybe a manager hears you or comes across your stuff. So it's a lot of these like building blocks that kind of open doors for the next tastemaker or helper that can get you further along.
yeah, awesome. So you both kind of mentioned like, there's levels to this. It's not 0 to 100. We got to take proper steps. And at IndieFlow, we have artists of, all different sizes and all different at all different levels in their career. What are some tips and tricks for artists who are just starting out? Like, let's say they don't even have like music out just yet. What are some things that they can do to lay a strong foundation in their career? Either of y'all can either.
There we go again. I mean, I think number one, it's like probably figuring out the type of music and like the genre, right? It kind of starts there. Probably songwriting, if you are an artist, is really the core.
Mhm.
Just like working on writing, just understanding like what's out there in the marketplace, because not only are the unsigned artists your competition, but the signed artists too. So, it's just looking at all these different things going on in the marketplace, but ultimately it starts with the song. And then from there, once you get to some recording, like I said before, then you'll start building your team and kind of growing out from there. But I think writing and the song is the first step.
Mhm.
So I think I'm a little biased,
Okay.
right? I know I'm biased, number one, right? Um, I'm always big on like the education aspect, right? So a lot of people get into the music industry and have no idea what you're supposed to do, right? I tell people all the time, there is unfortunately like no school to be a rock star, right? So there is no blueprint of how to figure this stuff out. So I'm always keen on like learn the industry that you're in, regardless if you're going to be on the business side or if you're going to be on the creative side, right? So still going back to the foundation of music, right? I wish more artists would take music theory classes so they
Mm.
can learn, how a song is actually composed. What different notes might be, what a measure is. Like all of this stuff is still important, even though it's digitalized, right? I wish that we did a little more on like the structure of songs. So what's the difference between a hook and a chorus? What's the difference between an intro and an outro type thing? So we can create better on top of actually learning the business aspect of the music industry. Because once you put that music out, regardless if you know who's consuming it or not, there's money, there's a transaction. Everything in this industry is transactional. So understanding how money is made in these industries, what are our royalties, what accounts do I need to be signed up for? Because if you set that foundation from the beginning, you're not going to spend as much time or money on trying to fix it once it's out, and you have to go back and like try to fix everything once you have a million streams and there's no copyrights on it or something.
Yeah, those you guys both made like really great points to laying the foundation. There's both the creative aspect on it, on just like learning how to make a great song, but also learning how to properly register it and, making sure like if the check's going to clear at the end of the month, because that's also extremely, extremely important. What do you think are some of like we talked about like the things that you should be doing. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see artists first starting out like make, and like how do you suggest that they avoid it? Eric, you want to start with you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the registering is definitely a big touch point here. I mean, I've even seen artists that are signed not understanding like that they have to register the songs. They think that the label is responsible for that, and it's not the case at all. So I think that is really a big flag for me. I've seen that a lot, especially like when you're coming up for like sync opportunities and stuff. It's pretty easy if you're on the PROs to look up the writers and stuff. But if there's no trail of that, it becomes a big issue. And then you could miss out on a big check. I mean, like sync placements are very lucrative in the business. And not only, can they break an artist, it's a great marketing driver as well, a lot of times to launch a career, launch a song. So you're missing out. And the sync world moves very fast. So, if you miss out, they're just going to go on to the next one. So something as simple as just registering, could deter that.
Yeah.
Definitely the paperwork aspect for sure, because I mean that's missing out on checks. But I think also the side of like comparing yourself to other people. So many artists when they first come out is like, well, I'm making this song so I can sound like X, Y, and Z, or I'm gonna be the next da 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 da, not realizing like we have that person already, right? We're looking for something new. So many artists want to live facades that just don't exist. And then once you really get in, you start realizing like even the artist who you like, it wasn't 100% real. So just seeing so many artists like, I want to just be like this person instead of just being 100% authentically themselves, which not realizing like that's what's going to get people to like you, not because you sound like who you thought we wanted you to like.
Yeah, I always say like you never want to chase a trend because it's already over. That's always a big flag. And then like marketing in my mind is always sort of the extension of like the creative process. So like if you're original and you're creative and you're doing your own thing, the content is usually matching that. And it's just a very natural evolution where it doesn't feel forced. So yeah, I think that's key for an artist to be authentic. That's really the most important thing. Stay true to their sound, their belief, and don't chase a trend because it's probably over already.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So I feel like in the business side and honestly on the creative side, we're always hearing like your network is your net worth and the importance of like knowing someone and building a community. Can you guys kind of speak a little bit more into the importance of networking, honestly, on any side of the business, but especially for artists and some of the best practices?
Yeah. I'll start maybe on like, the touring side. I've found that obviously every artist wants to tour, right? But to get on a big tour, there's sort of a process. It's usually like manager to manager, label to label, agent to agent, and artist to artist. But I've always found that it's that artist to artist connection, 9 times out of 10, or really almost 10 times out of 10, where that artist goes on a tour because of that artist. They want them on the tour with them. And I always kind of think back to like high school, right? It's like if you're going on a trip, you want to go with your friends. You don't want to go with some random stranger or maybe a friend of a friend. You're a little unsure of what might happen there, or who they might be, or how they might act. So I think that's where the networking really comes into play, building those relationships sort of locally, being really like a voice in your market, connecting with up and coming artists that you can kind of look out, help each other out. And then when one of them blows or all of you guys blow up, you just kind of band together. That's kind of how movements happen in music for the most part.
Nice.
Absolutely would agree. I think by far the biggest opportunity that I've ever gotten in my career was because I was recommended by a friend. I had no idea that this person even existed, and it was all because of like, hey, I got a friend Jay who will work X, Y, and Z. But I think artists have to be open to being collaborative, right? So many artists get stuck in like their egos, unfortunately, and it's like, I'm not gonna work with that person. Like I'm better than them, and it's like, but they have better resources than you. Like it doesn't matter. You just got to be open because people come from different journeys, different walks of life that you never know what can happen, but you also never know like how you guys can merge and benefit each other if you don't get outside of your comfort zone and just be open to something new, different happening, some type of new collaboration, making a new genre, going to a different studio, not being afraid to write with somebody on a song instead of just being like, oh, nah, I wrote better than him. And then you hear that verse and it's like, I got to start all over again, right? Like, don't make that such a bad thing. Like, if anything, is like, you just learn how to write better. Look what happens when you collaborate with people. So just being open to realizing like music is global. It's not just regional. It's not just city, state, nation. It's everywhere. So if you open yourself to be able to absorb, energies and cultures from everywhere, you might be able to have your music take you everywhere. Got to be open to it though.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Just want to remind everyone, if you have questions or anything, throw them in the chat. We'll have time for a little Q&A in the end. But just kind of going off of like the network and the people you know, when is it the right time for an artist to start to build a team, whether it's a manager, agent, all of that stuff? Like, when do you know as an artist, like, okay, we got to bring some people on to really make this, dream achievable? Eric, do you want to start with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you probably asked an artist whether they were big or not, they would say they need a manager right away. And that's not true. Like, they definitely should, like Jay said, learn the business, because it's great when, like, myself as an A&R, a marketer, I work with an artist and they understand stuff and we can have like an amazing, engaging conversation, strategize. Oh, what about this guy or girl? What about this? It's just so much more of a, opportunistic outcome. I think that's the biggest challenge, is like, artists are kind of in a rush, and they shouldn't be. Like, the manager will come. I always say, like, don't look for a manager. Like, the manager will sort of find you, the same way nowadays, especially, like, A&Rs kind of want to find the artist. A&Rs don't really like to be shopped or, told something. They want to discover it themselves. So I think that's really the key. Like, just have the patience, do your thing, make mistakes. I would even say, I've talked to artists about this. Sometimes I think having like an engaging video person is more important than a manager, because the content game is really what we're in the music business. So if you have someone that maybe you give 10% to or 20% to on that side, and you're building and growing together, that might be more lucrative for you in the long run than a manager. Because, as a manager, it's hard. I've been in opportunity situations where, I've developed an artist. I had one artist that got signed. It took 3 years to build them up to that point. And then our contract was up. And then they were situated with a label and they thought, hey, I understand this, I could do it. And they can't, like, because artists shouldn't really talk to the label. There should be a middle person having those conversations on behalf of the artist. But this was a situation of timing and got them to this certain point. But then the contract ended, and I was up for a renewal, but they were signed already. So they were doing their thing. So, it's timing, it's a combination of things. But ultimately, yeah, I think the artist should really understand the business, learn, grow, and look for opportunities, themselves to start, and then it'll all come.
Definitely got to agree with Eric. Let the people come to you. I just left like one of the biggest people who makes tours, and somebody asked him while we were there, like, when do I need a booking agent? He's like, when we come to you, don't come to us, because then we know you don't quite have the value there yet, right? So not only letting them come to you, but I think it's important to understand the role that each person plays on a team. So for an example, as being a manager, right, the roles are always misconstrued. They always think that you're supposed to be an investor, a booking agent, your social media manager. These are all different roles that other people play, right? So understand what each role is responsible for, and then also understand that when you're adding people and you're building a team members have to be paid, right? So if you're not at a point where you feel like you can pay everybody comfortably, you might not be ready for a team. So definitely piggybacking on what Eric said, with like, your content might need to be what's most popping right now. That way people can actually see who you are, to be able to say, hey, I want to work with you, or I want to do X, Y, and Z with you because you created that visibility. I feel like nobody really needs a manager until they come to you, right? Until you're extremely over inundated and they're like, yo, I missed so many shows. I missed this amount of money because I didn't do this show, or I didn't miss this opportunity. If you're not being over inundated with that, you don't need management. You need to learn what the actual business of the music industry is.
Yeah, and it's really hard for the manager, like, to make money when they're developing those first couple of years and stuff. So that's really the challenge when an artist is first starting out.
Nice. Okay, this was great insight. So We talked about, artists who are just starting out. I feel like some of the networking stuff and building a team is more for artists like in the middle, like a little bit deeper in their journey. Now let's talk about artists who, have been releasing songs, projects, have been making a lot of money on this. What are some tips for artists who are ready to start transitioning to being a musician full time?
Structure and organization. It's needed, right? It's needed for multiple things because if you're at that point where you're probably making money and you're ready to branch out even more, you probably already have a team. And I think it's easier to transition that team or even delegate what other people are supposed to do if there's a structure in place, right? So, for instance, okay, we have a videographer and we're bringing in a new person who's managing us, but we already have a system where we know after we film, that videographer gives us the content. We get edits within 72 hours. We have a recap within a certain amount of time. Like, you have a system for things. Even if it's a system for release, we know that once we leave the studio, we get a mix, a master, we get a clean, we get an instrumental, we get a da 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 da. We copyright it first, then we do all of our contracts first. Then we have those are systems, right? So having these systems in place creates organization. Everybody knows what their job is supposed to be, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. When you're growing, I feel like those are the most important things because you're going to get more opportunities, right? And they're going to get bigger and you're going to get on bigger platforms. You're going to be seen by more people. So you have to have these structures in place. So once this notoriety comes, you have a system to absorb. If you don't have a system for your booking, which is, when I get an email, somebody has to check the email every single day. And we have to at least reply and say, we'll get back to you within 24, 48 hours. And then we have to do our follow-ups. That's the system. But if that's not in place and you go do Good Morning America and then a million people email you and say, hey, I want to do this, there's no system in place to be able to take care of that notoriety that you're now getting. So I think that's super important for any artist, but specifically for those artists who are budding and who are getting ready to go to the next level. Because if you don't have a system, then you're just going to be following what somebody's telling you to do. And that might take away from what your goal might be, what your dream might be, because you don't have any of that in place. Create the system first. That way, when somebody comes on, they can be a part of what your journey is versus saying, no, this is what you need to do because you're not aware of what has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so well put. Yeah, the system, the process, that's really the key. And I think just to piggyback on that, as you're building your team, two key members for that as you're making money, lawyer and an accountant. Those are the two, because you're going to get a lot of deals that are starting to come in. You need someone to look at them. You need them to answer quickly, redline stuff, respond back, make edits. So that's where your lawyer comes in. And then as money is coming in, obviously the accountant breaking off each team member and making sure they're paid correctly, or, W-9s and W-4s and everything like that is put in place, 1099. So, and just really tax purposes for the end of the year as well. If you're touring and, making the bag, right, you have to figure out a way to put some money aside so you're not crushed in taxes. So those two team members are sort of those vital components that come in when you're at that point.
Nice. Awesome. So in addition to how we're going to get the bag, what are some other ways that artists can make money besides streaming? Because we know streaming payouts these days are not a lot. So what are some other things that artists can be doing to get the bag?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably like the brand partnership situations are really key. Depending on the level you're at and depending on the brand. Even when you're making music videos and stuff, sometimes like product placement inside of music videos can help you maybe cover, if you can't afford the red camera or whatever camera you're looking to, use, maybe you get a product placement, they cover a couple grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, it can go to that. So that's a really, great thing that I've seen that artists can really take advantage of. But yeah, brands are cool because that's kind of part of the culture as well, right? And I always say that's really the way to break artists, to get involved in the culture, be part of the culture. So depending on the artist, if you're a rock band, maybe you wear Vans, right? And then that helps you get into Vans Warped Tour. And then, you're doing an appearance at a store, just little things like that, can get in. And then if you're shooting that content, you can use that as like a pitch. Maybe you're not in with Vans yet, but you played Warped Tour. There's a local store, a mall in your area you go to, you hang out, you film a piece of content. You can use that to then pitch to them to potentially, pick you up and help you out.
Nice.
Got a whole list of them. I'm just gonna run them all, right?
Okay.
Go with sync licensing, so having your movie and TV shows, videos, movies, that type of thing. Merch. I have an artist who makes most of his money off of merch, right? So took his logo, put it on some different things, branded it up, send it out to folks, make a little short set. He'll literally ride around the city and sell them out the back of his car, right? To the point that we can't put it online because we run out of merch too fast, type thing. Shows, so doing live shows, but also doing like walkthroughs, doing studio sessions where, like, I think a lot of artists forget that they can somewhat kind of like be a teacher. You don't have to be perfect, but if you can get in the studio and tell people, like, this is my formula of how I make a song, come to the studio with me, charge maybe like $20, right? So I think in-person activations are another way that people can make money, but also figure out like who's your actual fan base type thing. Listening sessions, you can make some money off that. Doing walkthroughs in clubs instead of trying to do a full show until they know you right now, right? Influencer marketing, which is, like you said, taking different products and being able to promote them and put them in your videos, a cross marketing type thing. Let's see, what else? Money as an artist, writing for artists, right? Producing for different artists. If you're local in your community, go ask the mom and pop restaurant if you can make a jingle for them, right? Most of these people are not savvy on social media. So tell them, I'm going to make a reel for you and I'm going to put it up for you type thing, right? But they might pay you hundreds of dollars and you're not a social media manager, but it's the knowledge that you have from being an artist. So it's like, take what you know that you can either apply for yourself and do it for other people, or teach other people how to do it and make your bag off of it, for real, for real. That's just an easy way to, like you say, offset costs. So my studio time is high as hell right now, right? But okay, I just met with 5 kids who said, we'll give you $30 a piece if you teach us how to use this microphone, or how should I write before I come into the studio? Bet you just made $150. You just covered your studio time by telling people just tips of what you're already doing. So it's like using the resources that you already have and monetizing them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I see we have one question already. Just want to remind y'all to throw your questions in before we move into the Q&A section. What, like, for artists, like, how do they create a balance? Because, right now we're in our TikTok era. It's really like trending 5 to 30-second parts of a song that'll go viral. And, a lot of artists are chasing the virality. We mentioned like staying unique, but what's kind of the balance that artists need to find between creating what they love versus like creating what their audience demands, and like, what is kind of going viral right now? Like, how do artists balance that? But still, be authentic to their art, but still cater to how the world is viewing art right now. Eric, do you want to start?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think the challenge with a lot of artists is getting them to buy into TikTok, at least from my experience. I think when it first started, obviously with like dances and stuff, that's what artists kind of envision what it is. And it's further from the case. You can quickly post, whether you're a guitar player or a rapper, bars, whatever you want to do, producer, how to make beats. There's a lot of different opportunities. Just depends how you present it out there to the world. So that's really the key. I think another point to that is like, it's kind of, there's so many platforms out there, right? So it's also knowing your sort of fan base and your market and where you're having the most success. But then there's this juggling act and balancing act of also trying to build up the other platforms. So I think that's one of the hardest things for an artist, is trying to be like present in every spot. And it's really hard. But I say like stick to one or two and really focus on that. Content is really king. It's really key. So I say focus there as well. YouTube Shorts, that's more long form with YouTube, but you shoot a video, you can splice up content and use that, for the next 10, 15 days if you need to. So it's just being smart and planning. Like we said earlier in the session, just kind of having those goals, understanding your releases, what's coming down the pipeline, how you want to present it, and just trying to be savvy and cost effective, so you can kind of stretch that dollar, stretch the content, and use it to the best of your ability.
Nice.
Definitely agree. I think I'm big on trying to recommend people to do what I would consider alternative content, right? So I think a lot of people, when they make a song, they'll put the artwork up, they'll put, a clip of the music video, and then like that's it. Now they're trying to figure out like how do I make it viral? And sometimes just authentically telling the story makes people engage more, right? So what was happening behind the scenes at the studio, right? What was happening behind the scenes of the music video? How did you even come up with the concept of this song? What made you want to write it? What's your favorite color? What laundry detergent do you use, right? Like people want to have some type of way to connect. So I think people are not realizing most of the times when goes viral, it's because people are connecting to it. They're relating, like, oh, I can do this dance too. Watch me do a video of it and post it and make it go even more viral, right? Or sometimes there's certain sounds that people use, and it's like it's not really the sound, it's the message that they're saying. And that sound makes you feel whimsical, it makes you feel peaceful, it makes you feel like, oh, this sound is about, good energy and, good vibes type thing. It's not actually the sound, it's what you're getting relating to that specific medium of content, right? So if you start creating these things yourself and, like you said, stretching the content more so you can focus on whatever that goal or that single or that project might be, you're not so much just chasing being viral. You're just telling a story. And if it happens to go viral, so be it.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I said earlier, marketing is sort of the creative extension, it's the creative process and that becomes your marketing. So if you stay true to yourself and you're authentic and, like you said, Jay, like people are curious, they want to know about the artist, what they're into, what they like. It's just that personal connection, the behind the scenes stuff, a lot of times that does really well. So just don't be afraid, I guess, to be vulnerable. I think that's really the key. That's what people love. So definitely
Awesome.
do that.
Awesome, awesome. All right, moving into the Q&A section. Just guys, continue to throw in your questions. Our first question is from Thomas. What key actions or strategies do you recommend for early stage artists to build momentum in their careers?
Consistency, right? So everybody's not going to like it. You're not going to get as many views as you want from the beginning. You can't stop. You have to consistently put out not only content but music and network, and it's a balancing. I had somebody ask like, which one do you do first? It's like all of it. You have to do all of it at the same time. So the best thing to do when you're first starting is to dibble in and find that balance of, okay, I'm putting music out, I'm being seen online, I'm being seen in person, I'm working on my artistry, I'm balancing my mental health, and then keeping that circle, continually going. Again, you might not be where you want to be, but eventually if you consistently keep dropping, you'll get to where you want to be. But you can't stop.
No, it's true. Like at Nine Tone, we've been dropping every 4 to 6 weeks. And our deals are like 10-song deals. And it just moves when you're at that pace. It takes you to about a year if you're dropping every 4 to 6. And I've seen like 2 or 3 times the growth. So I think it's really important with that consistency.
Nice. Next question. Do you use Spotify analytics to advocate for better like paid shows? I'm guessing like better like door splits and like stuff like that.
I mean, I think it helps. It's a marketing tool, right? But I think what's really important is like live clips, and then just like a track record of locally performing, promoters, kind of word of mouth, local artists demanding, local fans demanding. It really comes down to ticket sales. So if there's like a hard, ticket sale that you can show, that's probably your best bet.
Agreed. Hard ticket sales are literally how we book shows. Between that and showing that we have data as far as like our fans, right? So I can book and get a higher paying rate by saying, hey, I have 75 people's email address in this city who like respond to us versus me showing them Spotify rates, which are way bigger. Because I can say, okay, well, in Orlando, I have 400,000 people who are listening to this kid. So I know you can book them, but it's like, that's not hard tickets. That's not bodies, right? But then I can say, okay, I have 75 people in the same city who already said they're willing to pay $20 for a ticket. Just book us type thing. They're going to book off of that versus these numbers, because again, who's listening to you and who's actually supporting you are two totally different things. What I mean by support is spending money on you, investing time, investing energy. You can listen to somebody, it might come up on shuffle and it's counted as a monthly listener for you, right? That doesn't mean that I went to your page and say, okay, I want to listen to this. It just happens. That's how the algorithm works. But when I can show and say, hey, we did 10 shows this summer, we averaged this amount of money at each show, this is how many people showed up, this is how much data we got from each show, they're going to want to book more. So that hard ticket sale is really where it's at. It's streams online and bodies in a building are two totally different things.
Yeah, great points from you both. Next question is, what's the best way to get sync licensing deals?
It's a tough one.
Have your paper together.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Your paperwork has to be A1 when it comes to sync. And having your paperwork together makes it so you can move at the speed of sync. Sync moves at the speed of light, right? So person calls you and say, we want to use this record, but we need a clean version. And you like, let me call my engineer. They're already moving on to the next one, right? So having all of your things in order with the paperwork, the people who you're working with, making sure that you have proper splits, everything is documented, copyrights, having the stems to your record, having a different clean acapella 8-bar, having all of those things and having them organized right then and there is going to make it so you can get sync licensing better. You can have great music, but if you do not have the paperwork on the back end to show it, they're not going to place it.
Yeah, it's true. And then, there's companies out there that, do deals, obviously, but a lot of times it's like a specific thing, from the producer or director. So it becomes very specific. References are usually much bigger and, popular songs that they just can't afford. So a lot of it is timing and, you just have to have your stuff in line and ready to go if you get hit up by someone. Because they, like you said, they move at the speed of light. They'll be on to someone else.
Yeah. So much of what you guys have been saying, really comes down to having a strong foundation, planning your stuff out, getting organized and getting structured. Because everything really does move in the speed of light in sync, especially, but in just the music industry. You got to be ready for the success that you want to come. Continue guys to throw any questions in the chat, but I'm gonna ask you guys a couple more questions. What's your favorite part about working with artists?
I think every day is different. That's what I love. It's like you wake up and you have a chance to discover the biggest thing in the world. Or just, be creative and have really cool conversations. It's so interdisciplinary. It's not just hey, I'm an accountant, I'm going to look at numbers today. That's maybe one part of it. But then you're looking at art direction and different videographers and different music producers and things like that. So I just love that you can just kind of be in everything.
Nice.
I get to wake up and ride a roller coaster every day, right? So I don't think it's anything more fun, but I think it's an amazing and it's an honor to be able to realize that music and entertainment are some people's dreams, right? So the fact that we're literally helping them to accomplish things that they've dreamed for all their lives. And on the other side, being able to see that what happens to some of these people's lifestyle, their friends, their families, their mental, when they're able to achieve some of these goals. So being able to see somebody that's yo, I went on tour and I came back and I bought my mom a house. It's oh my God, that's all you wanted. Or it's I put my daughter's in the best daycare in the world because, I was able to figure out how to get my copyright done and I got a sync placement and made X, Y, and Z. So it doesn't have to be monumental. It's small stuff, knowing that people are actually happy doing what they love. And it's happening because we're giving them certain advice or tidbits and you see it's cause and effect, right? I helped you. The effect is you accomplish your dream. It's a priceless type of situation.
Yeah, for sure. A question from the chat. What new music have you been really excited about?
I mean, for me, it's kind of weird because I don't really listen to new music. I feel like I listen to more artist development projects that I hope can blow up. So, I mean, someone like Denzel Curry for me, because I've known Denzel since he was 14 years old. I was pretty involved in the Miami kind of hip hop wave that he came through. He worked with De Niro Ferrar, who I had signed to Warner. When I worked at the WWE, we did a sort of a partnership with him for his song Ricky. He came out to Chicago. It was for our War Games event. He was camera ID'd. He met Triple H. So just to see kind of his trajectory and growth. I mean, he's so talented. He's an amazing lyricist, super creative. So Denzel for me is definitely one.
Terrible because I'm only listening to music that's not released that hopefully is going to be coming out soon, or I'm like still stuck in something. I'm still stuck on SZA SOS right now. It came out last December and I still play it every single day. So once I find good music, I'm stuck on it for months, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this is awesome. I love both Denzel Curry and SZA. Amazing. Great taste. So what are, obviously you guys are mentors, and thank you everyone who's been hanging around. I'll pop a little credit so you guys can get a free mentorship credit. So, we just roll out our mentors. These are two of our amazing mentors. We have many others on the platform who we'll be doing webinars with in the future. But, for people tuning in, like, what can people expect from a mentor session with you? Like, what are some of the things that you love to teach about, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm like a very visual person, really creative in that sense. So I love like sort of like the brand aesthetic, like visualization, like style, like videos, those kind of things. So it usually starts there, and then like thinking about remixes and producers and sort of the creative process and rollout of like, how do these singles build up into an EP, and how are we telling the story about the artist? That's what I love. I love that kind of like storytelling.
Nice.
Same. I love to come up with the plan, right? So my favorite thing is to ask artists, like, what do you want to do? What is it that you want to accomplish? Whether it's a single, their brand overall, a project. It's like, what do you want to do? And then it's me helping to figure out like, okay, this is what we're doing type thing, right? So figuring out what that plan might be for whatever direction they're trying to go, and then making sure, again, they're getting paid for it. My favorite thing for sure is sitting down and figuring out, all right, let's make these accounts. What do you have? What don't you have? Have you ever heard of this? Do you know that this exists? Let's get a pen and paper and let's get it done. Because that gives the artist more confidence, because there's so many artists who are like, I want to put music out, I just don't know how, or I heard so many people put it out and then they get all these streams and they make no money. So it's like, listen, if we sew all that up from the beginning, will you be more comfortable putting music out? It's like, yeah, I would drop, every day if I could, right? It's like, well, let's get this needle and thread and sew it up then, baby. Like, let's get it right. So you can feel confident with putting that music out with intention behind it and just happiness and knowing like, cool, I might not make 1 million streams off of it, but I have a copyright. So, anything can happen with that because you have just some ownership. So I think being able to give people the blueprint and some insight and breaking it down to a language in which an artist can understand is my favorite thing to do.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much. This has been so informative. It really flew by. It didn't feel like 45 minutes to me. It felt like a good 10-minute chat. But yeah, that just speaks to how, knowledgeable you both are. To everyone listening, hop on that free credit and sign up. Check out our mentorship page. Because this was just, imagine what a full hour would be like. Imagine what a few full hours. Like, there was so much knowledge in this one chat. Like, there's so much more coming at you guys. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you to all the attendees. Stay connected on the IndieFlow socials. We have another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. And yeah, we'll see you at the next event. Thank you guys again so much.
Thanks, IndieFlow. See you, Jay.